way we can get to know him is through his son, Jesus Christ. Once we establish a personal, and not just an acquaintance, but once we establish a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, we will be able to recognize his voice. Can I get a witness on today? But I want to share with you on today, we will hear many voices besides God. I'm going to say that again. We will hear many voices besides God. We often find ourselves lured by the voice of the world and its philosophy, their thought patterns and priorities. Others with whom we spend time influence us profoundly by their language and their opinion. Whoever you hang with, sometimes their way of thinking sometimes will influence the way you think. The evil one rails on you by accusing, and doubt in your mind. Our desire cause us to self-gratification and self-importance. It's all about me and mine, and what makes me look good and what's going to advance my agenda. Sometimes we'll get thoughts in our minds and we wonder, where on earth did that come from? But a lot of times, self-gratification, because if we're not careful, we'll let largely through experience, our relationship with God in our everyday life. As we become more acquainted with God through his word and works in our lives and lives of others, we learn to recognize God's voice. For you see, God never ever contradicts himself. If he has stated something clearly in his word, he won't speak to us in some other way and contradict himself. When someone claims that God told them to do something that clearly disagree with God's word, we know they have not heard from God. It is important for us to learn how to recognize God's voice. How do you learn to recognize anybody's voice? You pick up the phone, and if you know somebody well enough, you know their voice. It's by experience. You've listened to it many times, and it has a certain tone. One thing we need to know about God is his voice has a certain tone. God's voice is not frantic. When you hear desperate thoughts or panicky thoughts, that's not God's voice. God's voice will never lead you into a panicked desperation. When you find yourself being led into panicky desperation, you can know that you're not listening to the voice of God. Jesus said, "My sheep know my voice." It's the voice of the shepherd who cares for his sheep. When we come to the realization that is in fact God's voice, we must learn how to wait. Waiting is not something most of us enjoy doing in our lives. We often wait because we have no other choice. If you were supposed to meet somebody at a particular time and place, and you get there and that person is not there, you begin to wonder if one of you got something wrong as to the time and place. The longer you wait, the more you wonder, the more impatient you become, because waiting is not easy. If you think of the strength of a rope and how it only gets stronger as other strands are twisted together, that is how, when we wait on God and allow ourselves to become intimately connected with God. In our natural world, to wait for someone often means to be idle. That is not the case when we're waiting on the Lord. As we wait on God, we should become eager, alert, and attentive while we wait. It's not a period of getting tired and slumbering and just taking it easy, but we should be eager for what God has set before us, or what God has in store for us. Can I get a witness? In a battle, one of the hardest things to do is to wait. The hardest thing in a battle is not the final push. The hardest thing is to stand quiet and wait while the enemy fires shots at you from all around. That's the hardest thing, just to sit there and wait. When your enemies are concocting things against you, but you just sit there and wait. That's the hardest thing to do. But you know what? We got to learn how to wait. At the core of waiting on the Lord is obedience. The root idea of waiting is not devotion, it is obedience. We wait on God when we say, not my will, but your will be done, Lord. Isaiah 40:31 said, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up the wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint.